Well, this is a bizarre video I'm making, but it was requested by a lot of you, so let's talk about it. A Hollywood producer goes after Sydney Sweeney in a pretty hard way, so let's talk about what he said. Okay, so most of you, I think, have seen the headlines. Hollywood producer calls Sydney Sweeney untalented, ugly, that she's not pretty, she can't act, whatever you will. And this has caused a lot of backlash, outrage, and people just bringing up a lot of things. So let's rewind this for a second. In case you don't know who Sydney Sweeney is, she, of course, recently was one of the stars of Madam Web, but also she's been in plenty of other things, such as Euphoria and The White Lotus. Now, I haven't seen either one of those, but I've heard that her performance is decent. She's also been in other things that I may or may not have seen, so, I don't know her whole body of work here. Well, Hollywood producer Carl Baum was recently talking about his works, such as working on Dead Rising, Shining Through, The Good Girl, and various other things he's worked on, and modern day actors and everything was brought up, and he went on a tirade talking about how he doesn't get all the hype for Sydney Sweeney. And he specifically says that he sees a lot of people talk about her, but he doesn't understand why. And then he says, and I quote, "Explain this girl to me. She's not pretty. She can't act. Why is she so hot? Nobody had an answer." End quote. Now, this has caused a lot of outrage, and I'm going to cover this in two ways. So bear with me here. I have to be very careful with my words because people are stupid. So I got to rewind once again. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? We all understand that. What somebody else finds attractive or beautiful, somebody else might not. Is Sydney Sweeney your type? Well, if she is, chances are you find her attractive. But on the other side of this, I saw a lot of people saying they don't find her attractive, and the terminology and the description that they were giving of her is leaning into the stereotype of hot girl bimbo, or clueless, she's only got the job because she's hot or whatever, right? And then on the other side, we have people saying, well, don't insult any woman because of X, Y, and Z, but in these people's history, you can look it up, they're out there like absolutely being hypocritical and insulting somebody like Daisy Ridley, calling her ugly and all that, right? So there's a lot of back and forth here because for whatever reason, I've noticed that Sydney Sweeney is everywhere now. But again, she's like 26, right? She's in that prime age, so there's a lot of back and forth here. And if you look at what he's saying, again, to him, fine. You don't have to find her attractive, right? You don't have to. I know a lot of my friends, when we're together or whatever, and a couple weeks ago, as a matter of fact, somebody brought it up. They're like, you never talk about like celebrities you find attractive. Give us some examples, because I legitimately never do. I just don't care, right? It's like not a conversation. I don't watch projects because like there's a celebrity I find attractive in it. I'm not like that. Some people are. And I was like, off the top of my head, the two I find the most attractive are Haley Atwell and Bryce Dallas Howard. That's it, right? And they were like, and then it got into, Bryce Dallas Howard, she's not that attractive, she's ugly, look at the weight she's put on, blah, 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 blah. On the other hand, they're like, Haley Atwell, why not this girl, that girl? I'm like, this is exactly why I don't bring it up. Because maybe they're not your type, right? Maybe you don't like it, whatever the case is, right? And we're here now with this Sydney Sweeney situation, and you guys asked me to talk about it, so I'm trying to tackle this in a way that I can kind of acknowledge what it is, right? I just find this whole discourse and this conversation to, again, be problematic because there's a lot of people on both sides really showing their true colors and flip-flopping and how they're using Sydney Sweeney, who's clearly being searched by a lot of people, and a lot of people find her attractive and some don't, they're using this to kind of go back on some of the things that they've directly said, as I already said. Like, these same people are defending her, saying, don't insult women. But go look at all the disgusting things they say about Brie Larson, for example, right? And I'm going to use Brie Larson because that always triggers half the people in these comments. And now some people are literally going to go into the comments who asked me to talk about the Sydney Sweeney situation and put Brie Larson on blast. Therefore, you're being a hypocrite. So, again, just understand that this is one man's opinion. His opinion does not form what is fact. His opinion isn't true. You know? You can find whoever you want attractive for whatever reason. You don't owe anybody an explanation. And you can also find people unattractive, and you don't owe anybody an explanation. It's your preference. We're not all built the same, right? Like, when it came to Madam Web, I thought Dakota Johnson was super attractive. Maybe that's just me, right? I don't know. Whatever. It's whatever, right? You don't have to feel that way, but it is what it is, okay? Like, that's just the facts here. Now, here's what I want to bring up that should be the story of this actual conversation that we can have here in relation to this. Carl Baum should be the subject of this conversation because the lack of class from a Hollywood producer and somebody to put something like this out there publicly, that's a real lack of character and a real dumb move. And also very disrespectful, and almost shows me that he's like childish, right? It's like internet feuds. You know? People will find somebody that they disagree with, and when they can't get under their skin, they're going to sink even lower. Many times going after their family, their personal life, or something that they've said. He had no reason to do any of this. Literally had no reason to say this at all. Especially in a day and age today where, like, you're going to be a girl out there, right? And maybe you're caught in an unflattering way in a photo. And suddenly you're blasted out there to hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people in a compromised position. And suddenly you start getting bullied. Why? Yeah, sure. Is this really going to be the end of Sydney Sweeney's career? No. But there's no point for it. There's literally no point for it. To attack any actor over their appearance and sink to a childish mentality level. It's, in my opinion, very pathetic. It's, in my opinion, very incel dweller mindset. And it shows us that some people just never grow up and mature.